Welcome back to the Gentleman's Gazette. In today's video, we'll be discussing a topic that should be well known to any man who's purchased vintage or second-hand clothing, removing that signature musty smell. For any man who considers himself an enthusiast of classic menswear, scouting second-hand shops, consignment stores, or online auction sites like eBay can be a great way to find vintage items at a fairly economical price that still give you that signature classic look. On that note, if you'd like to know more about this topic, you can stay tuned for some upcoming videos about the benefits of buying vintage coming soon. And while the benefits of buying vintage clothing are numerous, there's one particular drawback that affects a great majority of these items, despite how well their construction and integrity have held up over the years otherwise. This drawback, of course, is that distinctively musty smell that seems to cling to almost all old clothing. Before we get started with the task of removing this smell then, let's first answer the question of where exactly it is that the smell comes from in the first place. There can be some variation between individual garments, of course, which is to say that some vintage garments can smell decidedly worse than others. It's a spectrum, really, everything from a whiff of wool or perhaps your grandmother's attic to something that's reeking of cigarette smoke, food, mothballs, or other offensive scents. Unfortunately, though, the key source of all of these odors is actually a potent cocktail of organic compounds. In other words, substances from our own bodies. A 2018 study on malodor, conducted by scientists at Procter & Gamble, came to this conclusion after taking a random sample of vintage clothing, putting it in a resealable container, filling the container with nitrogen gas, and then seeing what changes had occurred to the gas after approximately 2 hours' time. And here's what they found. 18 key malodorous molecular compounds, 12 of which were derived from so-called body soils, including dead skin, perspiration, and oils. Left to ferment over time, these organic compounds were the primary source of foul odors. The other 6 compounds, by the way, were traced to environmental contaminants like car exhaust, gasoline, dry cleaning solvents, food, and perfume. Stated plainly then, kind of gross, right? Well, let's tackle the task at hand then and talk about the easiest way to remove these foul odors. Your first instinct might be to take these garments to a dry cleaner, but in fact, this is a temptation that you should resist. The solvents used in dry cleaning simply aren't as effective at removing odors as the secret ingredient we're about to mention, especially when it comes to odors that are sourced from organic compounds. On that note, you can take a look at the previous video we've done about dry cleaning here. More specifically, odor elimination involves masking, encapsulating, or changing the molecular structure of the odor molecule that has attached itself to the fabric. What's the simplest and most effective substance to perform this task then? You're probably not going to find it in your laundry room. Instead, you should head to your liquor cabinet. That's right, when it comes to treating odors on your vintage garments, vodka will be the thing that does the trick. All you have to do is pour the vodka into a spray bottle and then spritz it onto the clothing in question. This is because the alcohol in the vodka directly interacts with the odor molecules on the clothing, encapsulating and reconfiguring them. And then, when the alcohol evaporates, it takes the odors away with it. Here are a few additional tips to keep in mind, though. First of all, don't dilute the vodka with water. The odor-fighting power of vodka comes from its high alcohol content, so adding water to the mixture is simply going to cut down on the vodka's effectiveness. Also, you don't have to use top-shelf vodka for this application. The absolute cheapest bottles that are available on the market will sometimes be grain alcohol with vodka flavoring, but as long as you make sure that you're actually getting vodka, a cheap bottle will do. Just make sure it doesn't have any added flavoring like fruit, for example. If you or a member of your household does require that the vodka not be drinkable, you can add about a tablespoon of rubbing alcohol to the bottle to denature it. Whatever the case may be, just make sure that the bottle is labeled clearly. And if other offenders like stains or particles remain on your garments after spritzing, you do also have some other options. So stay tuned for some more upcoming videos on stains and general garment care. If you need some additional convincing as to the effectiveness of vodka in treating vintage odors, you don't have to look any further than Broadway productions. Actors will often treat their stage clothes with vodka as they don't often have time to have them washed or dry cleaned between shows. In conclusion, though that signature musty smell may have been hanging on to some of your vintage garments for who knows how long, it is fairly easily removable from them. Skip the dry cleaner and make a trip to the liquor store instead. Remember, clean responsibly. So, were you aware of this handy deodorizing trick, and do you have any related tips that you could share? If so, let us know in the comments section below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to the Gentleman's Gazette YouTube channel and hit the little bell icon so videos like these can come straight to your inbox. In today's video, I'm wearing an outfit that might be typically worn around the house, taking a day to perform some necessary garment care. My medium blue cardigan sweater is in an especially informal style given its front pockets. It's worn over a shirt from Charles Tyrwhitt that features a simple gingham pattern in blue and white. The shirt does have French cuffs, but I've got them configured in a barrel style today so that they fit more easily under the sleeves of my sweater. With that said, I am wearing a pair of vintage cufflinks in silver that have a geometric pattern that complements the gingham of the shirt well. My plain brown trousers harmonize well with my sweater and my shirt, and on that note, you can take a look at our video on how to effectively wear and pair brown and blue here. My socks are also in a dark blue to harmonize with the sweater and shirt, and they feature a slight striped pattern in their weave. And rounding out the look today are my dark oxblood penny loafers, which are similarly informal, so they go well with the cardigan. I'm not really wearing any accessories today other than the cufflinks, but if you'd like to take a look at some other styles of accessories, including not only cufflinks, but also things like tie bars or collar pins, and of course boutonnieres, you can take a look at the Fort Belvedere shop here.